Why renting is smarter than buying in these specific situations. What if everything you were told about homeownership was missing half the math? What if the people calling renters throwing money away never actually ran the numbers past the first year? What if buying a home, the single largest financial decision most people ever make, was the wrong move for a specific, identifiable slice of the population? And nobody was telling them which slice they were in. Meet Jordan and Casey, same city, same income, same dream of building wealth. Jordan buys a home, Casey keeps renting. Everyone at the dinner table thinks Jordan made the adult decision. Casey just hasn't figured it out yet. 5 years later, Casey has more money, more flexibility, and zero regret. Jordan has a house, a story, and a spreadsheet that doesn't quite add up the way he thought it would. Here's what actually happened. And more importantly, here's how to know which one is you. The question nobody asks at the closing table when Jordan bought his home, people asked him all the right questions. What's the neighborhood like? How are the schools? Did you get a good rate? Nobody asked him the one question that actually determines whether buying was smart. How long are you planning to stay? That question, and the honest answer to it, changes everything. Because the math of homeownership doesn't work on a 1 or 2 year timeline, it barely works on a 3-year timeline, and for a specific group of buyers it never works at all. Here's why. When you buy a $350,000 home with 10% down at a 7% interest rate, your monthly mortgage payment is roughly $2,327. That sounds manageable. But in month 1, how much of that payment is building equity? About $327. The other $2,000 is pure interest. Gone, paid to the bank, not building anything for you. This is the part of the amortization schedule that mortgage lenders don't staple to the front of your closing documents. In the first year of a 30-year mortgage, you pay roughly $24,000 in total payments. You build approximately $4,000 in equity through principal reduction. The other $20,000 went to interest. And that's before property taxes, homeowners insurance, PMI if your down payment was under 20%, and the first maintenance bill that shows up 6 months in. So what's the real question? It's not can I afford the monthly payment. It's this, how many years does it take before buying actually beats renting in my specific market? That number has a name. It's called the breakeven horizon, and for most people in most markets right now, it's longer than they think. The breakeven horizon nobody calculates. Casey is renting a comparable place for $1,800 a month. Jordan owns his home and pays $2,327 in mortgage alone. Add $400 in property taxes, $150 in insurance, and a conservative $250 a month budgeted for maintenance. Jordan's true monthly cost is closer to $3,127. That's $1,327 more per month than Casey. Jordan's first instinct is to say, but I'm building equity. And he is. But slowly, and not as fast as that $1,327 gap is compounding in Casey's favor. Casey takes that $1,327 monthly difference and invests it in a low-cost index fund averaging 8% annually. Year 1, that's $15,924 invested. With compounding, by year 3 Casey has roughly $52,000 in invested assets that Jordan doesn't have. Jordan, meanwhile, has built approximately $14,000 in equity through principal payments. He also benefits from any appreciation on the full $350,000 value of the home, which at 3% annually adds about $31,500 in paper wealth over 3 years. So at year 3, Jordan's net position from homeownership gains is roughly $45,500. Casey's invested difference is roughly $52,000. Casey is ahead, and Jordan spent 3 years doing yard work. Now here's where it gets complicated. At year 5, appreciation starts working harder for Jordan. His equity grows, the amortization curve slowly shifts in his favor. If he stays long enough, the math flips. The question is, does he stay long enough? The 5 situations where renting wins this is not an argument against homeownership. It's a map of exactly when and where the math turns against buying. And the situations are more common than anyone in the real estate industry wants to admit. Situation 1. You might move within 5 years. The breakeven horizon in most markets right now sits between 4 and 7 years. That's how long you need to stay in a home before the total cost of buying, including transaction costs, interest front-loading and selling fees, is offset by appreciation and equity gains. Closing costs when you buy run 2 to 5% of the purchase price. On a $350,000 home, That's $7,000 to $17,500 out of pocket on day one before your first mortgage payment. When you sell, real estate agent commissions typically run 5 to 6% of the sale price. On a $350,000 home after modest appreciation, that's another $20,000 to $22,000 leaving your pocket before you see a dollar of profit. So before appreciation does anything for you, you're already $27,000 to $39,000 in the hole from transaction costs alone. If you sell in 3 years, appreciation at 3% annually adds about $31,500 in gross value. That barely covers your exit costs. You didn't build wealth. You broke even if you were lucky. If there is any chance you're relocating for work, relationship, family, or lifestyle within 5 years, the math of buying does not work in your favor. Situation 2. Your market's price-to-rent ratio is above 20. The price-to-rent ratio is a simple calculation. Take the purchase price of a home and divide it by the annual rent for a comparable property. A ratio below 15 generally favors buying. A ratio between 15 and 20 is neutral. Above 20, the math tilts toward renting. In cities like San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, Seattle, and Austin, price-to-rent ratios have been sitting between 25 and 40 for years. That means you're paying 25 to 40 times the annual rental value just to own the asset. In those markets, a home that rents for $3,000 a month, or $36,000 a year, might cost $900,000 to $1,440,000 to purchase. The mortgage payment alone on a $900,000 home at 7% with 10% down is over $5,700 a month. You'd be paying nearly double the rent for the same space, betting entirely on appreciation to make it work. That's not a financial plan, that's a speculation. Situation 3, you haven't stress-tested the full cost. Most first-time buyers calculate the mortgage, very few calculate everything else. Property taxes in high-cost metros can run $8,000 to $15,000 a year. Homeowners insurance adds $1,500 to $3,000. HOA fees in condos and planned communities can run $300 to $800 a month. Maintenance on an average home runs 1 to 2% of the home's value annually. On a $350,000 home, that's $3,500 to $7,000 a year in repairs, sometimes concentrated in a single brutal month. Add it together. A $350,000 home with a 7% mortgage, average taxes, insurance, and maintenance costs you roughly $3,100 to $3,500 a month in real expenses. That number shocks most buyers when they see it laid out, and unlike rent, those costs only grow over time. If you haven't run that full number and stress-tested it against a job loss, an income reduction, or one $10,000 repair, you're not ready to buy. Not because you're irresponsible, but because nobody showed you the actual math. Situation 4. Your down payment would gut your financial foundation. A 20% down payment on a $350,000 home is $70,000. For most people, that represents years of savings. The question nobody asks is what draining that savings account does to everything else. An emergency fund that took 4 years to build gone. Investment contributions that were compounding, redirected to mortgage payments. The financial buffer that protected you from a job loss or medical emergency wiped clean. Buying a home with everything you have is not wealth building. It's wealth concentration in a single illiquid asset. And if the market softens in the first 2 years or you need to sell unexpectedly, you have no cushion. Casey kept renting, kept her emergency fund intact, kept investing, and kept her options open. That optionality has a dollar value that never shows up on a net worth spreadsheet, but shows up the moment life changes without asking permission. Situation 5. You're comparing to a bad rental, not a comparable one. Here's the version of this argument that actually misleads people. They compare the cost of owning a home against renting an apartment that's significantly smaller, older, or in a worse location. That's not a fair comparison. The honest test is this. Find a rental that is genuinely comparable to the home you'd buy. Same square footage, same neighborhood, similar condition. Now run the numbers side by side. In most high-cost markets, that comparison makes renting look significantly more attractive than the standard mortgage versus rent framing suggests. The reason is simple. Landlords in appreciation-heavy markets are often renting below their own carrying costs, betting on long-term appreciation to make it work. You, as the renter, capture that subsidy. The objections, but rent is just throwing money away. Is it? Every dollar of mortgage interest in year one is also gone, you don't get it back. The difference is it went to a bank instead of a landlord. In the early years of a mortgage, you're throwing most of your payment away too, just to a different place. But I need the stability. A lease can provide 1 to 2 years of housing stability, and in a renter-friendly market, many landlords will negotiate longer terms. Homeownership provides more permanence, but it trades that permanence for illiquidity, concentration risk, and a 30-year debt obligation. Stability has a price. Make sure you know what you're paying for it, but home prices always go up. Nationally, yes, over long periods, but locally and over shorter time horizons, the picture is messier. Phoenix dropped 20% from its 2006 peak before recovering. Many markets saw flat or negative real appreciation through the 1990s. If you buy in the wrong market at the wrong time and need to sell within 5 years, appreciation is not your friend. It's a variable you're betting on, not a guarantee you're receiving. The real question: Jordan didn't make a bad decision. In the right circumstances, buying a home is one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available. Leverage, forced savings, tax advantages, and long-term appreciation can absolutely compound into generational wealth. But Jordan never asked the questions that would have told him whether his circumstances were the right ones. How long am I staying? What is the price-to-rent ratio in my market? What does this actually cost me per month when I include everything? What does draining my savings to buy do to my financial resilience? And am I buying because the math works or because everyone around me said it was time? Casey asked those questions. The answers told her to keep renting, keep investing, and keep her options open. 5 years later, her portfolio is ahead of where it would have been if she'd bought. And when the math finally tips in favor of buying, she'll have the capital, the clarity, and the flexibility to do it right. The smartest financial move isn't always the one that looks the most adult at the dinner table. Sometimes it's the one nobody fully understands until the numbers come in. If this video made you reconsider a decision you thought was already settled, that's exactly the point. Subscribe to Wealth Logic and hit the notification bell. We run the math that the headlines skip every single time, and the next video is one you are not going to want to miss.